Hey, what's going on, Guardians? TBL here, and today we got to learn some really interesting information concerning Destiny 2 DLC 3 Forsaken. Thanks to a recent article from GamesRadar where they got to interview Bungie's Scott Taylor and Steve Cotton, we're learning a lot of really interesting information about the upcoming DLC pack, including changes to the story structure and progression, strikes, the weapon system and ammo economy, and even a really special new ability for Void Hunters out there. Now, this article itself is titled 12 Game-Changing Details Bungie Told Us About at E3 and What They Mean for the Future, and it gets really in-depth with some of this stuff. We'll leave a link to the full article down in the description box below, but for this video, we're going to cover some of the most important bits of information that have come from this interview. So let's go ahead and dive on in. And they start the article out ripping the band-aid right off. Cayde 6 is really dead. Apparently the first thing they want us to know is yes, our favorite Hunter Vanguard is really dying when this DLC comes out. And Scott Taylor has some specific words for talking about why they came about with this decision to kill off, well, most players' most favorite character in the franchise. Here's what he had to say. He's dead. His ghost is dead. We wanted to come out with that to do a couple of things. We wanted to establish the tone of the game and show that we're serious about it. We also want people to process it. You'll play a mission with him, and you're not really sure when this is going to happen or how, so the emotional experience of that would be very different if you just turned on the game, you saw it, and it was just all shock. It's actually a little more rich and interesting if you have some time to sit with it and reflect. And that, of course, goes along with some of the other things we heard from Bungie, that basically they really wanted to set up a revenge tale within the world of Forsaken, and the best way to do that was to kill the one character most of us care the most about. Now, when it comes to Cayde 6 really truly being dead, I'll hold out some flicker of hope that we'll be hearing from the Hunter Vanguard sometime in the future, but for right now, Bungie's saying Cayde is definitely out of here. Moving on, the next big point on this list is about the campaign and how it's going to have a non-linear mission structure, at least when it comes to the story. Here's what they had to say. It actually plays out a little bit differently. You go on a hunt, you get to choose the way you're doing it, who you're going after, and in what order. On top of just Uldren, there's going to be these new characters called the Barons that help him out. And when the game comes out, you're going to see just how involved they were in the unfortunate act of taking down the Hunter Vanguard. You're going to hate them just as much, if not more than Uldren. And you've got to hunt them all down to get to Uldren. At a certain point in the story, you're going to have a list that you're trying to check off. Meaning when it comes to these Barons, you're actually going to pick and choose which ones you want to go after first. Basically allowing you to progress through the story in a non-linear fashion, picking and choosing the exact path that you want to take. And so, of course, that might bring up the question of, does it matter what order you do it in? Steve Cotton had this to say. It might matter for power rating or just for how difficult the quest might be. So there's probably going to be an established order that you should go in, with maybe the first Baron being the lowest light requirement and then it kind of ramping up from there. But apparently you'll be able to pick and choose when you go after these guys, which might explain why we have such a massive power level increase from Warmind into Forsaken. You know, the max power we've seen is 600. And having this story set up like this where you can pick and choose how you want to play things out, I love that. That was actually something that was kind of a part of the original pre-release cut of Destiny that was helmed narratively by Joe Staten. He really wanted the story to be non-linear so you could go to any planet you wanted to and tackle the story that way. It looks like we're going to be getting that sort of setup with Forsaken. And I gotta say, I like it. I like the lack of hand-holding when it comes to how you complete this story. I love that you can go through different branching paths and everybody's tale can be a little bit different. Now, another big topic of interest during this interview was the hobby state of Destiny 2, making Destiny 2 that consistent hobby that you want to come back and play every single day. There's been a lot of talk from Bungie about how exactly they're going to be returning the grind to Destiny 2, and we've seen that answered with stuff like random rolls returning for weapons, even stuff in Warmind like adding in fantastic rewards like the Escalation Protocol weapons, but apparently we're going to be getting even more when Forsaken comes out. Scott Taylor said this, Year 2 kicks off with Forsaken, which is a transformative moment for Destiny. We're not only delivering all that, but we have Triumphs, which is a new set of achievements that every player is going to get. We have the collections, we're changing the weapon slots, we're adding random rolls. All these things are for all Destiny players. And then on top of that, we're doing events. We're still going to have events that are available to everyone, seasonal rewards, PvP, all of that stuff. And on top of all of that, we also know that there are a lot of players who really want Destiny to be a hobby. We've definitely heard loud and clear that they want in-game challenges, more exotics, and more loot. So instead of doing the content drops that have that cinematic focus on the campaign that players might only play once, we want to lean into that escalation protocol type experience that the really devoted in-game players are craving, and really deliver those more often. And I've got to say, it's really good to hear that. I know they've been on the right path when it comes to Warmind with changes and stuff like that, but I think focusing on an activity as rewarding as Escalation Protocol and as fun as Escalation Protocol, and using that as kind of the template for your game modes moving forward, while also adding in new things like the collections, the triumphs, all that kind of stuff, while also adding in like new exotics and new hidden quests and secrets to discover, that is the exact thing I want to hear from Bungie when it comes to changing the way we view Destiny, so that we can kind of get out of this mindset of get on, finish your weekly milestones, don't play anymore. So reconnecting with that carrot on a stick, that grind mentality that the first Destiny utilized so well, I think is absolutely the right choice. And speaking of secrets to find, the Dreaming City gets a couple of big nods within this. We learn even more about how it's going to be the home of in-game pinnacle activities, with the notion that the Dreaming City is going to be a challenging, player-driven proposition where the story is built from the experience. We get to hear quite a bit about the Dreaming City in this interview, about how it's not only going to be a place that's tied to the story, but it's going to be the place that houses the raid, but also becomes a kind of world space for players who aren't just running the raid to run around in, to explore, to find secrets, and to even complete stuff like events in. Steve Cotton had this to say. So the first thing that makes it different from normal destinations is that it's home to the raid. So imagine if the raid just sort of trickled out into an island around the raid. Everything that you can do there is all kinds of related. It's also not afraid to put things in front of the player that they can't do yet, and have you figure out how exactly you're supposed to do them. So it's less about trying to tell a linear narrative through that, and that the narrative is more about the experience itself, and what you're doing and the puzzles that you're solving. And then Scott Taylor tied on to that, saying that the raid is definitely a big part of the Dreaming City, but there are activities that go over time, like public events, secrets that if you're determined enough, you can get powerful enough to go through and explore and find out what they hold. And I really love this. I love the kind of mystique, the mystery surrounding the Dreaming City. And I love the fact that it's not just going to be a place you load into with 5 other Guardians to run a raid. It's going to be a place where you can go by yourself as a solo player if you want to explore, if you want to play public events. I love that this is going to be the home for in-game activity. Cannot wait to learn more about that place. Alright, moving on from there, we get to learn a bit more about some of the changes coming to weekly milestones, including the return of daily heroic story missions, something we haven't seen since Destiny 1. But anyways, they confirmed that there are a total of 3 new strikes in Forsaken, 4 if you're on PlayStation, as of course they get that one PlayStation exclusive strike. And when it comes to the weekly challenges you'll be engaging in, you can now do heroic story missions and other daily challenges, including some challenges that are going to be popping up less frequently than daily, but more frequently than once a week. Very interested in learning about what that's going to mean. But when it comes to the daily heroic story missions, they talked a bit about this before, about how they're going to be adding in powerful rewards as an incentive to run these. This, I think, is great. I really miss the ability to run, whatever story mission you want like you could in Destiny 1 by just selecting it on a destination. So I'm glad to see that daily heroic story missions are being added back in, although I do question what this is going to mean for Ikora Rey and the memory system she has right now. Additionally, they also talk a bit about how they're going to be changing up strikes to make those more rewarding, but they say that they can't quite go into detail about that yet. Hopefully it has something to do with some strike exclusive gear that's kind of as good as like the stuff you can get in Escalation Protocol, or in some of the PvP modes like, the Redrix's Claymore and whatnot. Either way, it looks like in addition to elongating the grind that you're going through for loot, they're also looking to make the game modes that you're playing through a bit more fun, and I'm always in favor of that. Alright, and after that, they confirmed that the new supers, the 9 new supers, 3 for each main character class, are going to be much the same in terms of attunement trees, in which you can't really pick and choose which perks you want. They're still going to be using preset skill trees. But that some of the supers themselves are going to be radically different, and certainly we've already seen some of that with stuff like the new Well of Radiance super for Dawnblade, which is almost purely a support super. If you haven't learned about some of the abilities tied to that class, feel free to go check out some of our previous videos. Maybe I'll leave a link to it in the description. The new Warlock subclass for Solar is going to be absolutely incredible. It's got healing grenades, all kinds of buffs. It's looking really fun, and I cannot wait to learn more about some of the other class changes. They go on to talk about how the new supers are going to have more nuanced depth beyond their destructive ability, and support skills are going to be a big focus. And I am A-okay with that. After that, they go into weapon slot changes a little bit more, and a lot of it's stuff we already know about the ability to pick and choose how you want to play Destiny 2, whether you want to run triple shotguns or if you want to have energy sniper rifles or energy fusion rifles and stuff like that. But a big question that's popped up as of late in the community is how these weapon slot changes are going to affect some of the weapons we already have in Year 1. And thankfully, we get some really direct answers to that. In particular, we hear about how we're going to be bringing our Year 1 weapons forward into Destiny 2 Year 2. Here's what Scott Taylor said. The Year 1 gear will keep the same perks and all that, but it will be infeasible. So for people who love, say, the Uriel's Gift, it will be expensive for you in the economy, but if you really want to, you can bring it up to the power cap, if that's something you're excited about. And then they go on to say that some of your old weapons might actually move around a little bit in the new weapon system. When the update comes out, weapons will move around for people, so that is a change. As part of this change, some weapons will be reassigned to different slots, and so people will log in that day and some things will have shifted around. This is actually something we heard about from Josh Hamrick not too long ago as well, when somebody was asking about their 𝘳𝘦𝘢𝘭𝘺 shotgun, the escalation protocol shotgun, if that was still going to be a heavy weapon or if that was going to be moving to the special slot, the secondary slot. And it seems to be confirmed some of those Year 1 weapons that you've got will be swapping around, so you're going to see some of your currently heavy weapon sniper rifles move into your special weapon slot, which is great because it means you can use a shotgun, you can use a sniper rifle, you can use a fusion rifle alongside a rocket launcher or a sword or a grenade launcher now. And particularly for me, with something like the 𝘳𝘦𝘢𝘭𝘺 shotgun, I'm definitely psyched to be able to pair that bad boy with a Wardcliff coil. And I'm very, very happy that they're allowing Year 1 weapons to move forward. That might seem kind of weird to some players who are new to Destiny, but in Destiny 1, after Year 1, they basically left all the weapons that you had grinded for in the past. You couldn't bring those up to current relevant light levels back in Destiny 1. That's something that didn't change for a couple of years until really the last year of Destiny 1. And I always felt like that was kind of a mistaken decision. So I'm really happy to hear that it's not going to be the case with D2 moving forward. If you've got a loadout that you absolutely love in Destiny 2 right now, you'll be able to bring that forward into Year 2 power levels and beyond. Alright, after that they talked a bit about Crucible and how it's going to be experiencing some major changes when the weapon slot system goes into effect. We of course know that later this summer we're going to be seeing major changes with all quick play modes going to 6v6. We'll have the permanent Rumble playlist. And of course, the entire Crucible meta is going to be turned on its head when Forsaken drops in September, when you can, run around with shotguns galore. Going to be interesting to see how they manage the ammo economy for that. Alright, and the last thing I wanted to bring up from this article was an ability coming to Void Hunters. Congratulations, you're getting a wall hack. Here's what the Bungie devs had to say. I like the Void Hunter, simply for the fact that, and I don't know if people are picking this up or not, you can see through walls. You can see other players through walls. So if you're playing Gambit, if you're playing Crucible, that's going to change a lot. It's going to be a lot of fun to see. Now, we already have abilities in Destiny 2 that can kind of let you see through walls. When you're a hunter and you're tracking somebody, you can see that little target, even if somebody goes behind a wall. Same thing if you are a warlock using the Sanguine Alchemy and you drop a rift, you can kind of target people through walls. But the way they're talking about it here almost makes it seem like you're going to get some sort of X-ray vision on Void Hunters, which kinda spooks the crap out of me. Makes me happy we don't have Destiny 1 Year 1 armor-piercing rounds anymore. Do you remember the wall bangs you could get in games where the mode was like control and whatnot? It was ridiculous. Maybe we'll see it come back, maybe we won't, but you might be able to see some Guardians through some walls. Right, that is going to be it for this one. Those are some of the most interesting bits of information that came from this GamesRadar E3 interview with Steve Cotton and Scott Taylor from Bungie. There's a lot more information there, so if you want to read the rest of the things they talked about, be sure to hit that link up in the description box below. It'll take you right there, and let me know what you think is the most important bit of information to come from this article. There's a lot to talk about, whether it's the weapon slot changes, the ammo economy changes, the Dreaming City being its own world space that you can explore even if you're not running a raid. I really love the sound of that. But anyways, be sure to leave me your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a like, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell to stay up to date with all the latest Destiny 2 news. But alright Guardians, that is going to be it for this one. Thank you all so much for watching. And as always, I'm the Black Link. You Guardians, stay frosty.